Welcome to Serger Basic. I'm Erica, and in this class I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know to be comfortable using your serger. We will step through the supplies you need, how to get your machine set up, how to thread and adjust tension, how to change between stitches, and much, much more. If your machine is brand new and you haven't taken it out of the box, now is the time. Let's get ready to serge. Before you set up your machine, let's talk about the supplies you need. You can't run your machine without needles and thread. The proper needle size and type is crucial in making sure your machine performs at its best. When buying needles, first check your manual for which needle system your machine is compatible with. Most manually threaded Bernina and Burnett sergers use needle system 130/705H, while the air threading machines, including the Burnett 64 and Bernina 8 series machines, are designed for the ELX 705 needle system. Your needle package also has the name of the type of needle it contains printed on the front. With the 130/705H system, each type of needle is made for a particular job and should be chosen according to the type of fabric you're planning to use. For wovens, a microtex or sharp needle is great. For knits, use a jersey or ballpoint needle. The ELX 705 needles are universal and can be used on wovens or knits. You'll also find needle size printed on the package in both European and US size equivalents. The number refers to the diameter of the needle. In this picture, 80 is the European number and 12 is the US number. Both numbers represent the same size needle. Generally, you want a smaller needle for lightweight fabrics and a larger needle for heavier fabrics. Do not go lower than a size 70 or higher than a size 90 on your serger. 1 or 2 needles can be used depending on your stitch selection. The needle should sit at slightly different heights when inserted correctly. To summarize, manual threading machines are designed for the 130/705H system, and air threading machines are designed for the ELX 705 system. Use needle sizes between 70 and 90, and the needles should sit at slightly different heights when inserted correctly. Now let's talk about thread. You have several different options when it comes to thread, but the most important choice is fresh, high-quality thread. Old thread cones are prone to breakage, and low-quality thread can leave lots of lint in your machine. Serger or Maxi-Lock thread are 2 brands that we carry. They are 100% polyester and color-fast. Regular spools of sewing machine thread can be used, but it's far less economical. Maxi-Lock stretch or woolly nylon is thin when taut and expands when relaxed. Both are soft, making them great for intimates or seams close to the body. They're also great for athletic wear and creating a solid line of color when used with a rolled hem. You can also use a variety of decorative threads, including metallic, embroidery, and monofilament. Only use decorative threads in your loopers, not in your needles. Now that we've talked through supplies, let's get familiar with the parts of your machine and what they do. Before you serge, always check that your telescoping thread stand is fully extended. This puts your thread in the proper position to enter the tension discs. For Burnett machines, if you're setting up your machine for the first time, you need to put your spool holder on first and then attach your thread stand. Bernina machines come with the spool holder already attached. Next, you're going to plug in your power cord. You can place your foot control on the floor, and if it has a separate plug, go ahead and plug that in now. And you can turn your machine on. You can control your surging speed with the foot control. Push hard on it and you will go faster. Push lighter and you'll go slower. For models with smart foot control, when you kick back on your heel, your needles will stop up or down. Insert your freehand system into the front of your machine if you have one. This allows you to use your knee to raise and lower your presser foot while keeping your hands on your project. All models have a presser foot lifter for raising and lowering the presser foot. When the presser foot is raised, the tension discs are open. You want to make sure that the presser foot is up for threading so that the tension discs are open and the thread can get seated in between the tension discs in the proper place, and down for serging so that the tension discs are closed and putting the proper amount of pressure on the thread to form your stitches correctly. The 8 series machines have some additional lift space, so you can raise the presser foot higher for bulkier fabrics. These models also allow the presser foot to swing out for easier threading. To swing it back in, simply lower the presser foot lever. To remove a presser foot, for all models, you'll push the button on the back of the shaft. To attach, position the presser foot and lower the shaft until it grabs onto the foot. You can adjust presser foot pressure to low, medium, and high. Increase the pressure for lighter or slippery fabrics and decrease the pressure for thick, bulky fabrics and knits. For machines with manual tension, you'll use your thread tension dials to adjust the tension settings. The default setting is 4, but you will adjust this depending on the stitch and the fabric you're using. A lower number creates looser tension, and a higher number creates tighter tension. For models with auto tension, when you lower the presser foot, the tensions are automatically set. Stitch length on your serger works just like it does on a sewing machine. The higher the number, the farther apart the stitches will be. The lower the number, the closer the stitches are. For general sewing, use 2.5. For a rolled hem, you can go all the way down to 0.8 to make your stitches nice and dense and close together. Below that, you'll find the differential feed knob. Your differential feed's neutral setting is 1. So what is differential feed? Your serger has 2 sets of feed dogs, one in front of the other, and differential feed controls the rate that they move. At 1, they're moving at the same rate. This is great for stable, sturdy fabric to get you a perfect flat seam. On stretchy fabric, that same setting is going to create a wavy seam. To combat this, adjust the differential feed to a higher number. This feeds the fabric in faster and compensates for the stretch and gives you a flat seam. The exact setting needed will depend on the stretchiness and weight of your knit. You can also use this feature to gather woven fabric. Just turn your differential feed as high as it will go and feed your woven fabric in. If you bring your differential feed setting down as low as it will go, it stretches the fabric out as you sew. This is used to create a wavy decorative edge. To summarize, generally, you will use 1 for wovens and 1.5 or 2 for knits, but you should always test the differential feed on your fabric before starting your project and adjust accordingly. Next, let's look at the rolled hem selection lever. When serging, overlocked stitches are formed around the stitch finger. When you move the selection lever to the rolled hem setting, it pulls the stitch finger back so that you can create rolled hems. Once you're done with rolled hems, make sure to move the stitch finger into place so you're ready for regular serging again. You'll find the micro thread control lever next to the rolled hem selection lever. It makes minor adjustments to the stitch finger placement to help with thread tension and is an easy way to perfect your stitch without adjusting your tension dials. Your cutting width dial moves the cutter right and left for wider or narrower cutting. The default setting is 6. You can open your looper cover by pulling to the right and lowering to the front. For the 850, 860, and 890 models, you'll open the threader cover to the front and then open the looper cover by pulling to the right and tilting forward. These models also come with a seam guide. To attach it, you simply squeeze the spring and slip it onto the knife cover. You can slide it to your desired position and then just squeeze the spring to take it off. For models that include it, your cutoff spin easily attaches to the front of the machine. If your machine has a tray table, you'll slide that along the grooves until it clicks into place. For models with a free arm, the free arm cover closes the opening around the free arm. On the L450 and 460 models, you can open the sewing table by swinging it to the left. This allows you access to the knife activating knob, which is how you can engage and disengage the upper knife. On other models, you'll simply pull the upper knife to the right and turn it toward you to disengage the blade. Now that we've walked through the different parts of the machine, you can turn your machine off and go ahead and unplug it, and you're ready to learn how to thread. The L860 and L890 models have a touchscreen that allows you to make changes to stitch selection, individual stitch settings, and properties or memory while sewing. Advanced users can alter settings directly in expert mode, while the guided mode offers step-by-step instructions. Both modes automatically set the thread tension, stitch length, and differential feed along with stitch selection. When the machine is turned on, it starts with the last sewn stitch. On-screen symbols support stitch selection and settings for easy navigation. Your manual tells you more information about what each one does, but we'll go through them too. The home screen shows which user mode is active. Blue is for guided mode. Your screen background color verifies which mode you're in. In this case, the background is blue, so we know we're in guided mode. When you press stitch selection in guided mode, you'll be prompted to save the stitch. Press cancel and the stitch selection with the stitch groups is displayed. The guided mode changes to the wizard when you select your stitch. This will walk you through the manual settings step by step and ask you to check and confirm each setting as you move forward. Just continue to hit the arrows to the right, and you can click the green check mark once you're done. To change to user mode, select the Home button and now select Expert mode. You'll see the screen background change to purple. When you select your stitch, you'll go to the Manual Settings screen where you'll set and confirm each setting. You can switch to the guided mode from this screen if you need help. When you confirm your manual settings, the stitch view will appear. The stitch can be displayed in gray or multicolor. Your selected stitch's number and name appear on the screen, and the thread tension default is displayed in the color of the color-coded threading path. You can adjust the thread tension individually on screen. You'll notice when you move the tension from default, the box now has a white outline around it. You can also fine-tune your tension with the adjustment buttons that are next to the tension dials. The default is easy to reset. Just select the tension button and then select it again. If you press CLR, which stands for clear, all your changes will go back to default. This button controls needle up or down. You can set the machine to stop with the needles in the up or down position at the end of every stitch. Below that's your stitch length and differential feed adjustment. Move to a higher number for farther apart stitches and a lower number for closer together stitches. You can play the animation for a refresher on what these functions control. The Stitch Optimizer button shows possible stitch outcomes and measures for optimization to help you troubleshoot your stitch quality. This button allows you to reduce your maximum speed. The manual settings icon on the right navigation shows the recommended default settings for your selected stitch. The personal memory save icon allows you to overwrite or delete personal stitch settings. Personal stitches can be selected for sewing and set accordingly. On the L890, this icon shows you stitch selection by stitch group. On the L860, the icon takes you directly to the available stitches for that machine. You can use the navigation buttons on the top of the screen to switch between different stitch views, including stitches by number and stitches with or without the stitch name. Use the magnifying glass to find a stitch by number. If you aren't sure what something does, activate the help function by hitting the question mark for feature explanations. The Home button allows you to switch between the home screen and the sewing screen. The setup icon takes you to various personal settings for the machine, like sewing speed, screen brightness, sound, etc. The tutorial button contains more information about operating the machine. You'll be able to find information like what needles to use, how to change them. The creative consultant makes recommendations around the optimal stitch, as well as needle, thread, and presser foot. The Eco button locks the screen and the machine won't sew. To unlock it, just tap the Eco in the center of the screen. Now that you have a better understanding of your screen and how to navigate it, let's talk about threading. Threading your machine in the correct order is crucial, and Bernina has made it easy for you. On the inside of your looper cover, you'll see a diagram walking you through the thread order by number and by color. You'll always start by threading your upper looper. The upper looper is color-coded blue on your chart and is the second thread from the right. Next is the lower looper, which is color-coded red and is the farthest right thread. After that is your right needle, which is color-coded green and is the second thread from the left. And lastly is the left needle, which is the far left thread and is color-coded yellow. Before you begin to thread, always make sure that you lift your presser foot up. That will make sure that your tension discs are open and your thread can get seated in them correctly. We're going to start with manual threading machines, the B44, B48, L450, and L460 models. For the B44 and 48 models, start by turning the hand wheel until the needles are all the way up. Then lift up your presser foot, and you can remove your cutoff spin, and then you can open your looper cover door. When threading for the first time, it can be really handy to match your thread color to the color coding on the machine. The upper looper is coded blue, so we're going to use blue thread. You're going to bring your thread tail up through the telescoping thread stand and back down to the pre-tension disc. Hook that in, and then you're going to go through the tension disc and down. And you're going to continue to follow the blue color-coded guides and go through all the hooks until you reach the upper looper. And you're going to thread the upper looper from front to back. It can be really handy to use your tweezers for this. And once you have it threaded through, you're going to pull the thread tight, and then you just want the thread to be under the presser foot and off to the left. And here's just a closer look of that path. Next, you'll thread the lower looper, which is color-coded red. You're going to follow all the red marks through and get in all those hooks. And then you're going to thread the lower looper, and you can use your hand wheel if you need to move it to get in better position. Use your tweezers to thread the lower looper from front to back. And when you pull the thread through, just make sure that it is under the upper looper. And then you're going to hold that thread tail, and then you're going to take your thread and hook it in that little hook there, and then you're going to push the threader lever up. And that's going to place the lower looper thread in the correct position. Next, you're going to do your right needle, which is color-coded green. And again, you're going to bring your thread up and then through the pre-tension and tension discs. And then you're going to bring your thread over to the spot for the green thread, into those hooks. And then make sure to get the thread guide right above the needle. And you're going to thread from front to back in the right needle. Pull your thread tight, and then you're going to bring it under the presser foot and to the left. All right, and lastly, you're going to do your left needle. That's color-coded yellow. So with your yellow thread, go ahead and follow the color-coded yellow paths. Hook it in the hook above the needle, and then you're going to thread from front to back into the left needle. Pull your thread tight, and then just bring it under the presser foot and to the left. Once you're done, you can close your looper cover door and put your cutoff spin back on, and you're ready to go. The L450 and 460 models are threaded similarly. Go ahead and raise your presser foot, or you can even remove it to be able to see better. And then you're going to open your looper cover, and you can turn the hand wheel to the threading position. So you can see that horizontal red line should meet the black arrow. You're going to find your accessories in your looper cover, so go ahead and grab your tweezers and let's get ready to thread. You're going to start with the upper looper, and again, you want to use blue thread, and you're going to place that in the position that's second from the right. Bring your thread up through the telescoping thread stand, and then back down through the tension and pre-tension discs. And you're going to follow the blue thread path. And then you're going to thread the looper eye front to back and lay the thread to the left. Next, you're going to thread your lower looper. This one is red, so you're going to place a red spool in the farthest right position. Bring your thread up through the telescoping thread stand and back down through the pre-tension and tension discs. And then you're going to follow the color-coded guides. You're going to activate the lower looper easy threader by pushing on that white knob. And then just continue to thread along the thread guides, hitting all the hooks that are color-coded red. And then you're going to thread the looper eye front to back, and then just lay your thread off to the left. Next, thread your right needle. This one's color-coded green, so you're going to use green thread and follow the same path up through the telescoping thread stand, down to the pre-tension and thread tension discs, and then thread along the green guides. And make sure to get through the thread guide at the needle holder. And then you're going to thread your right needle front to back, and then you'll lay your thread off to the left. Last, you're going to do your left needle, which is color-coded yellow. So grab your yellow thread, and you'll go through the pre-tension and the tension discs and follow the yellow guides. Hook it in the thread guide at the needle holder, and then you're going to thread that left needle front to back and lay your thread to the left. Now you can put your presser foot back on and just lower it down. And then you're going to close your looper cover and you're ready to go. Next, we're going to talk about air threading machines. We'll go through the B64, L850, L860, and L890. For air threading, let's start with the B64. Place your blue thread second from the right and your red thread at the farthest right. Open your looper cover door, and you're going to push the air threader lever to the left. Next, turn your hand wheel until the air threader thread paths engage. You're going to thread your blue thread through the upper looper pre-tension and tension discs. Pull about 20 inches of thread tail and then place the end of the tail in the blue color-coded hole. And then press the air threader button and it'll come through your upper looper eye. And if it doesn't, just pull more thread until the thread pops through the upper looper eye. You can cut that thread tail and you're now going to move on to the lower looper. Follow that same path through the telescoping thread stand and the pre-tension and tension discs. And then you'll pull about 20 inches again and place that in the red hole. Push the air threading button and you can bring in some more thread if you need to until that comes out through the lower looper eye. Bring that thread under the presser foot and use the thread cutter. And then you can disengage the air threader by pushing that knob to the right. And now you're ready to thread your right needle. So with your green thread, bring that up through the telescoping thread stand, down through the pre-tension and tension discs, and then follow the green color-coded guides. Make sure to get that into the thread holder right above the needles. And then you'll just thread the needle front to back. Pull that thread tight and then place the thread under the presser foot and off to the left. And last, you're going to do your left needle. Grab your yellow thread, bring that under the tension, pre-tension and tension discs, and then follow your yellow path. And then you're going to thread the needle front to back. Pull the thread tight, and then bring that thread tail under the presser foot as well. For the L850, raise the presser foot to open your thread tensions. Open your looper cover door, and you're going to activate the air threader by turning the knob to the left and pressing your foot control. This is going to close the air threading pipes, or you can use your hand wheel to do this. And then you're going to thread your upper looper thread through the pre-tension and tension discs. Pull about 20 inches of thread and press the foot control to thread the looper. You're going to push that or let that thread go through the blue color-coded hole. And you're going to do the same thing with the lower looper thread. You can swing your presser foot out to get to those thread tails a little bit easier. Lay them under the presser foot and swing the presser foot back. And then just use your cutter to cut your threads. And then deactivate your air threader by turning that knob to the right. Close your threader cover doors. The threader cover will only close when the air threader is deactivated. So you can go ahead and close that door and your looper cover door. And now you can thread your right and left needle just like we did on the other machines. Now let's look at the L860 and 890 models. For the L890, engage the upper looper for overlock stitches by turning the knob to the right and pressing the foot pedal to bring the looper up. The screen will prompt you to check your rolled hem lever. Make sure it is set to overlock, or O, and your micro thread control should be at 0. Hit the green check mark on your screen and you're ready to begin threading. Open your looper cover doors and activate the air threader by turning the knob to the left. And on these machines, threading order doesn't matter, so we're going to start with the lower looper. Grab your red thread, bring it up through the telescoping thread stand, through the pre-tension and tension discs. Pull about 20 inches of thread and place your thread tail in the red color-coded hole. You're going to push your foot control and it's going to bring your thread out through the lower looper. You're going to do the same process for the upper looper with your blue thread. Again, putting the thread tail into the blue color-coded hole and pressing your foot control until that comes out the upper looper. Make sure to bring your thread tails under your presser foot. And then you're going to thread your right needle, grab your green thread, follow the green color-coded paths. Make sure to hook into the proper thread guide above the needles. You'll find a manual needle threader stored in the threader cover, and this can be really handy to use for threading your needles. And so you're just going to go through the right needle front to back, pull your thread through, and then bring that thread under the presser foot and off to the left. And last, you're going to do your left needle with your yellow thread, so follow the yellow color coding. And then make sure to get into the proper thread guide. And then you'll just thread that left needle front to back, and then bring your thread under the presser foot and off to the left. You can swing your presser foot out if it makes it easier to get in there. And then when you lower your presser foot, it's going to just bring it back into position. Hit the green check to confirm threading. The screen's going to change and it's going to remind you to deactivate the air threader, so you can turn that to the right to do that. And the screen's going to change to the sewing screen view. And your default thread tension, stitch length, and differential feed are all set automatically for you on these machines. So you can close your looper cover and threader cover, and you're ready to go. Next, we're going to learn how to change threads quickly with the tie-on method. Start by clipping your existing thread above each thread cone. You're going to remove the old threads, and then place your new threads on the thread cone holder. And you're going to tie the new thread to the corresponding old thread tail that's hanging down. Just use a nice secure knot. Once you get them all tied, turn your hand wheel to lift your needles up, and then lift up your presser foot. You're going to pull the needle threads out and clip right in front of the needle. And then just pull those threads until the knot comes through from the new thread. And you're going to trim those thread tails above the knot. And you're going to pull the looper threads until you see the new threads come through. And then you can trim those thread tails off. And then now you're simply going to thread the needles. So you can go through the left needle with your left thread and the right needle with your right needle thread. Make sure to bring your thread tails under the presser foot and have them lay off to the left. And that's it. You can lower your presser foot. You're ready to go. Next, let's talk about alternative finishes for your thread tails. So these are things you only really need to do if the end of your seam is not going to be covered up by another seam. If you do have a situation where one seam overlaps the other, you don't need to do anything with your thread tail. You can just cut it off and it's good. You can use the darning method, so you would thread a darning needle with all 4 threads, and then you're going to weave that needle under the looper threads. You can see that on the upper right picture here. And this is, again, only necessary on seams that aren't getting serged over again, but that's a good way to bury your thread tail and make it really secure. You can tie your thread tails in a knot, so you're just going to separate all 4 threads and then tie a knot, like tie the 2 sections into a knot together. Or you can use a seam sealant like fray check or fray block to glue the trimmed threads in place. So this can be handy if you're making rolled hem napkins and you want a nice clean finish at the end. Just simply trim that thread tail close to the edge of the fabric and then put a little dot of fray check on it, and that should keep it in place. When doing basic troubleshooting on your machine, always remember TNT, which stands for thread needle tension. When in doubt, if you're having trouble, go ahead and rethread your machine. Take all the threads out and do the whole process from start to finish. Double check that your presser foot is raised while you're threading each thread and that you're threading in the correct order. With your needle, check that you're using the correct size and type of needle for your fabric. You'll always get a cleaner result if you do. And then tension. After checking that your threading is correct and you're using the correct needle and a fresh needle, try changing the tension to see if your stitch quality improves. Now you're ready to try it yourself, so let's take this opportunity to change the settings on your machine and stitch out samples of some of the most common serger stitches. Let's start with the 4-thread overlock. This stitch is the most commonly used serger stitch and is the strongest for construction. Your needle tensions should all be set at 4. Engage the stitch finger by pushing it forward and set the cutting width to 6. Your stitch length should be 2.5 and your differential feed is at 1. Stitch that out, and if you've threaded your machine with thread corresponding to the color coding on your machine, This stitch will show the upper looper thread in blue on the front and the lower looper thread in red on the back. Next, we're going to do the 3-thread overlock stitch. This stitch is very similar to the 4-thread overlock, but it isn't as bulky or quite as strong because only one needle is used. Still, the 3-thread overlock is great for quickly finishing edges and seam allowances. Your needle tensions should be at 4, and you don't need to set the tension for the left needle because we're only using the right needle in this. You're going to engage your stitch finger and set the cutting width to 6. Your stitch length should be at 2.5 and your differential feed is at 1. You're going to cut your left needle thread and pull that out. And then you're going to remove your left needle. This will set you up for a narrow 3-thread overlock. If you want a wide 3-thread overlock, remove the right needle instead. Now we're going to do a 3-thread rolled hem. To create a rolled hem, the serger rolls the very edge of the fabric to the underside and encloses that edge with thread. This stitch is great both as a decorative element and as a way to hem lightweight and sheer fabrics. One way to make this stitch look really great is to use MaxiLock stretch thread in the upper and lower loopers. You're going to set your right needle tension at 3.5, your upper looper tension at 4, and your lower looper tension at 7.5. Cut your left needle thread, pull that thread out at the needle, and then remove your left needle. You're going to set your stitch length to 1 or even lower, and your differential feed to 1, and then disengage your stitch finger and set your cutting width to 5. Go ahead and stitch that out and you can see that it does a really nice rolled hem. And if you use MaxiLock stretch, it's going to be even more filled in. Now you're going to try a 3-thread flat lock. So a flat lock is a type of stitch that securely joins 2 pieces of fabric by creating a seam that lays flat when finished. For a narrower flat lock, use your right needle. Set your right needle tension at 2.5, your upper looper at 4, and your lower looper at 7. Cut your left needle thread, pull the thread out at the needle, and then remove your needle. Set your stitch length to 2.5 and your differential feed to 1. Make sure to engage your stitch finger, push it forward, and set the cutting width to 6. You're going to stitch out your sample and then pull the fabric open firmly to open up the stitch. And you'll see how it kind of creates this ladder effect. And that's laying the fabrics one on top of the other and allows it to lay nice and flat. Now that you've gotten to know your serger, I want to introduce you to the Bernina and Burnett Mastery Overlock workbooks. These workbooks are a wonderful companion resource along with these videos to get you comfortable with your machine. I highly encourage you to use these workbooks to expand your knowledge of all that your machine can do. These workbooks, just like this video, are online and can be accessed from anywhere on your computer or your mobile device. To access them, simply go to our website, moderndomesticpdx.com, and click on the Machine Resource Guide. Scroll down the page until you see the Overlocker Serger workbooks. And then in here, you're going to find drop-downs for the different manuals. So you can just find your model and view the workbook for your particular model. Congratulations, you've successfully completed Serger Basic. Hopefully you're feeling much more comfortable and confident with your serger. Don't forget to use your Mastery workbooks for additional resources and techniques. Thank you so much for joining us.